Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
Welcome to the Comedians and Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, Jay Scurry. Jay, say hi, introduce yourself. Give us a little introduction.
Hello, hello. My name is Jacob Scurry, originally from West Germany. Huge football fan. Go Germany. uh, I'm a music producer, sound engineer. Recently, I've been doing a lot of work for Sick With It Records, which is E40 and Be Legit's record label. So yeah, it's a lot of fun so far. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So are we talking soccer here or American football? Which one are we doing?
Oh, soccer.
Just checking, just checking. Want to make sure. A lot of people are, confused about that. All right, so let's get started. So the whole idea of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any jokes. So two sides of the same coin. A lot of people would say you start as a comic and you evolve into a comedian.
Right.
But, it's a new way of looking at things. So let's start with the first question about the role of persona in comedy. So how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
Um, I'd say 60-40, maybe.
Okay. Any reason for that number?
Because I mean, I guess some comedians they get into character versus other ones that just like naturally kind of like maybe like Dave Chappelle sort of sense. He just kind of like talks to you versus
So you're,
like maybe go
you're
ahead.
saying like you're saying a character is other than themselves, like they're portraying a caricature of perhaps even themselves.
Right. Or
Okay.
uncle or yeah.
So does authenticity matter or is illusion part of the magic?
I would say you gotta have both. You know what I mean? Like 50-50.
Illusion and authenticity?
Yes, yeah.
50-50. So is that are we bouncing back between identities or are we talking about like content, the kinds of jokes? How do you see that?
Uh, I would probably say content.
Okay.
Yeah.
So be consistent with your identity, just the content should be
A wider
elusive,
range.
wider. Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah.
So punching up versus punching down. So where do comics versus comedians stand on this? So let me throw this idea at you. Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester?
That's that's funny. Um,
Now, is that punching up or punching down for the medieval prince?
um, punching up.
Punching up. So the prince, but the court jester is lower rank. No.
Um, I guess back in those days, yeah.
So I'm just throwing it out there as an idea. I mean, what it's a scenario we have just even considering comic versus comedian, right now.
Right.
So I'm going to go back to medieval times and put it in that context, but I think it does make sense. So, um, so would you say that the audience's agreement with the comedian is a form of permission or alignment?
Um, I would say permission, like permission to keep going, like
Okay.
to keep that whatever you're doing, and it when the audience like responds is like that response is like letting you know like that you're doing right, like 11-11, like keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, you consider perhaps the alignment as relevant, or just do whatever and see if it lands, and if it does, just keep doing the same thing.
I think it's testing the waters, alignment. Yeah, but naturally, I think when you just kind of test the waters and the crowd gives you that reaction, I think the crowd is like giving you the green light to continue.
Now, is that just by laughing? There are those awkward laughs, so it could be
Laughing, clapping, engaging with the comedian sometimes.
okay. All
I've
right.
seen that before. Yeah.
All right. Cultural translation of comedy. So, how do jokes that work in one country bomb in another?
Um, I guess culture clash. You know, I guess it's different with Americans because we're here is like, well, I mean, in the past, I can't say now. In the past, it's like you were free to like kind of touch on each different culture or whatnot, and not be so serious about it as far as like the crowd. But nowadays, I guess when you leave the country, I guess you still have to kind of be careful or sensitive to, you know.
Yeah, everything has
But
changed lately.
yeah, everything's changed lately, and that kind of like, I don't know. I just feel like comedians, man, they shouldn't have any limits. I think it should be limitless because that's the whole point of comedy, like to share your views, like raw views, and make us
Hmm.
laugh. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Without the crowd getting offended. So
Yeah, perhaps like George Carlin, where you offer the solution and then you give the problem
give them the problem. Yeah,
after the solution.
after the solution.
So, right, right. So, would you say the comics are more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
Um, yeah, because comics they could just kind of freestyle and just as long as it's funny, or they're just I guess trying to make someone laugh. Comics more different than comedians. Comedians
Hmm.
they have to work on their material and make sure those punchlines and whatnot are like on point. But I think comics are just a little bit more easier than comedians.
Easier? Wait, how do you mean easier? What part?
Because comics you just got to be funny.
Oh, yeah, you're not trying
Comedians
to
you
do anything more,
yeah,
right?
yeah, comedians you're trying to be funny, but at the same time you're trying to engage with the audience and make them feel like what you're feeling. Because 9 times out of 10 when a comedian is on stand up and they're like telling their jokes and whatnot, they're engaging. They're like letting you know, like, hey, um, if you have an uncle like this or a cousin, like they will like let you know that they understand where you're coming. You know what I mean? Like,
Would you perhaps think that it's the agenda of the comedian? He's not just trying to make you laugh, he's trying to convince you of something.
right, right, definitely a genius. It's his job. Yeah,
It's his job. But the comic is just trying to make you
he's
laugh.
just trying to make you laugh. Yeah.
But no, other than that, there's no depth to it. Is pretty much how you
um,
see it.
yeah, yeah, that's how
Okay.
I see it. Yeah,
Well, that's where I'm coming from, is that there is this separation right there.
right.
So crowd work versus crafted work. So I would argue that the comic riffs does crowd work like influencers, and comedians perform like in reaction videos. So where's the sweet spot?
Um, I guess it's kind of in the middle.
But would
Um,
you agree with that statement that
yes,
okay?
most definitely. Yeah.
So when I say the sweet spot, I'm referring to maybe, both people, like the comedian, who I argue is a little more evolved, go back to being a comic in a sense to um, you know, work like an influencer, as an
R-
example.
Yeah, I think that's once you get to that stage, it's easy. I think it's once you're established, I think it's easier to come back down and do like more comic stuff because you have like that, I don't want to say experience, but you just have that comfortability to like just like I know what to do. Um like I
Now,
don't have
now,
to
yeah, no, go ahead.
yeah, kind of like I don't have to work as hard for the crowd, but more like I can just be me and be funny, you know what I mean? Like um social media, like I don't know, it's like I feel like the comedians they put like a little bit more hard work into their craft versus like a comedy.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we see too much where a comedian is downgrading to a comic for
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
any
exactly.
particular promotion. But we've seen it in, say, movie stars that start doing commercials, and it's like they're a washed up movie star, but they still need to work to make money, right? And then you see
Right,
them in
right,
some weird commercial, and you're like, so that's how I see it, as analogous, right?
right.
It's
I
but we
literally
haven't
just
really
saw
seen this yet.
I literally just saw Ludacris on the insurance commercial like an hour ago. I was just like, that's different.
Well, you think okay, but is
The
that
car
you think he's
insurance.
downgrading? You think he's
No,
downgrading?
no, because he did so many Fast and Furious movies, it kind of like aligns with it. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? It's like, well, I guess he
yeah.
does know about cars.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an
But it was a
alignment
commercial
there.
about grapefruit juice. You'd be like, oh, I don't know.
Oh yeah. That would be That would be punching down. I'm sorry.
Right.
I would call
Definitely.
that. I'd be like, he's punching himself down. Like, why are you doing that to yourself? Like, what happened?
What
Just
happened?
pinky slap yourself. Why? I don't
Right.
know. Maybe he wants to be like that. Someone got to him, but let that one go. All right. So what happens when a comic leans too much into crowd work or a comedian gets heckled?
Um, I think you said comic, right?
Yeah, when a comic leans too much into crowd work, I would argue that they do more they riff more with the
Riff
audience.
more, yeah. A comic, you you have to have that relationship with the crowd. There has to be some type of connection versus like you're trying to build a connection versus like a comedian, like he knows how to engage and knows how to connect with the audience versus a comic. He has to come with his A game.
Okay, so you're saying that the comedian has already built a reputation, and so people are
Yeah,
coming,
he's more
they already know
finesse
what
with
to
it. He or
expect.
she, yeah, yeah,
Okay, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, you don't when you go to see a particular person versus who else is showing up.
right.
All right. All right, here's a great question. Advertising and self-promotion. Who advertises themselves more, a comic or a comedian? You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast to get the message out today. See you soon.
Um, I would say probably comic because the comedian has built his name up to where he doesn't really have to promote himself. That crowd will support wherever that he or she goes. So a comic, I think you have to, especially with social media, I think you really have to do your own marketing and strategize and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you see, is self-promotion seen as selling out or is it necessary for survival?
Oh no, that's necessary because if you don't do it, then who's going to, you have to start somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
I think you start with yourself, self promote, and I think that it kind of starts a domino effect, and people see you working hard and it's like, what, I want to support this guy or I want to help this guy, and it kind of continues from there as
Mhm.
long as you build. Yeah.
Can't agree more with that. So censorship and offense. Does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point?
I think so because a comedian, like I said, they're already established. They know their audience, and the audience knows what they're going to say, and there's like this respectable thing between the audience and the comedian versus the comic. I think it's just a little bit more different than that.
So the comic is starting from 100% and can like an A grade, and then it can only get downgraded from there. And the comic's the other way around. He starts with 0 and works his way up on
Builds
the
himself
scorecard.
up. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, um, so who survives better in a cancel culture environment?
Um, the comedian,
Why is that?
because the internet can shut off in tomorrow, and that won't stop a arena or some type of facility where the community can go and still sell out. Because I've been to places where I'm just like, oh, there's a show tonight. Oh, yes, it's just. I was like, I didn't know about it, and tickets was already sold out anyway. But they didn't promote it,
Right.
so it's like when you have that name built up, you don't need internet. You know what I mean? You just one spin, a couple of spins on the radio, and it's like people will be there because you put that hard work for your name. You know what I mean? So
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay,
yeah.
so right, so timing and delivery, science or art. So do comics rely more on structure and comedians more on rhythm and emotion?
Uh, Comedians definitely rely on emotion. Yeah, because that's your tester. That's your red light, green light, yellow light. You know what I mean? Looking at the
Okay.
audience. Yeah.
How's that go? How the lights work?
Um, well, if you get a lot of claps and good good energy, that gives you the green light to keep going with that strategy that you're using. But if you're getting half of that, and it's like, oh, you can revive back and go to another punchline that you had. It's a quick set. You're like, all right, well, let me just set something up. So, and then give them the punchline. That didn't work out too well. It's like you're trained to do that. You know what I mean? You're working off a
Hmm.
like skill set, like you're training from all the days you had, 10 people in the crowd and fruit thrown at you. Like you've had that experience already, so you know how to work with that.
I
I don't
haven't
think
had the
comedians
fruit.
have to,
I haven't had
yeah.
the fruit thrown at me yet. That one's new. I haven't crossed that line.
I hope it doesn't happen.
So laughter versus applause. So are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing applause breaks that validate the message?
I'll say the applause is a good feeling.
Mm.
Laughter is cool, but I think the applause is what you want at the end of the show. You want
At
that,
the end.
yeah, you want that everybody in unison clapping and cheering you on and whistling. Genuine response versus, you know, I don't know, I just think the applause is
Yeah, absolutely. I
more
mean,
valuable. Yeah.
more valuable. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. But you got to have laughter along the way. If you only have applause, could something
Yeah.
be wrong?
But the applause is letting you know that the laughter throughout the whole show was good. That's like
Right.
the cherry on the cake. Well, to me, at least. Yeah.
Have you been seen a comedy show in Europe?
Not a yet. No.
The reason why I ask is because I understand that mostly they don't laugh or applaud during the show at all.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So
European Germans are a little bit more.
yeah, yeah. You wait till
Yeah.
the end. You're like, what's going on here? You have no cues. You don't know what's happening until the end. They're like, good job. You're like, huh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
comedy is commentary. So when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
Um, so I guess it depends on the comedian, like where they're from and their style of comedy.
Mhm.
And then you have the opportunities where they have like uh small roles in movies and stuff like that. Um, I guess it just depends on your style.
Mhm.
Because there are some comedians that are really funny, but they teach at the same time, and you're not really knowing that they're teaching. It's just their style of comedy, and it's just like, oh, that was funny, and I actually learned something.
Right, right. Yeah. Is there anyone in
Yeah.
particular that you think of?
Um, what's the guy with the ponytail and the black shirt? Is it George?
I mean, George Carlin, but
Yeah, Carlin. Yeah, he's hilarious.
well,
Yeah,
he's dead now, but
yeah. But I'm always watching stuff on YouTube. Him, and then there's this new guy. Oh, I can't think his name. He's blown up on the shorts. White guy, kind of southern, but he does like these common sense jokes, and it's just hilarious. He's like funny. He just came out of nowhere.
right. So would
Um,
you say he's a comic or a comedian?
he's definitely a comedian, but he's like
Yeah.
raw. You know what I mean? He's like,
So it's the emotion that makes you say comedian.
yeah, yeah,
But structurally, he's more of an influencer, right? You're seeing him on shorts basically, right? So it's not long material.
right. His shorts are even though they're shorts, they're still like stand up.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're just like 10 seconds
Like
or 15.
10 seconds?
Yeah, he'll say like
Okay.
one joke and go, end, and you just keep
Right,
going to
right.
the next. Yeah, he doesn't like do multiple jokes in the same short, but yeah,
I would put that in the comic category because it sounds like he's doing a lot of.
comic,
I would say I would think so without knowing who it is. But the idea that they're like 10 seconds, you're going to do a lot of cuts, right? And so you're
right,
cherry picking good material. I would say
right.
just
Um,
as an idea. So would you say that it's good or does it dilute the humor?
I think it's good. I think it's good. I don't see anything wrong with it.
All right. So comedy and vulnerability. So do you think that comics hide behind their jokes and comedians expose themselves?
Um, maybe the comments on social media, yeah, because yeah, I said it would. Yeah, yeah,
So this one that the emotional one is not hiding, he's exposing. Would you agree?
right,
So
yeah,
this is where it gets tricky, right? Trying to put things in a box where they don't necessarily fit. So I guess that's where you could be like 50-50, right? The part structurally is comic versus the other component, which is a comedian, right? So
right.
which one is braver?
I say the comedian. I mean, because you still have to deal with people. You still
What
have to
if it
like go into towns that you've never heard of, or you know what I mean? It's like you never know
Mhm.
what can happen. That's just me, you know.
No, absolutely. It's definitely a position. But perhaps the reason of the question is that, from my perspective, is that they had no other option. Like they can only do or be that way, right? So could they be any other way? They're brave, but they're also not choosing. They are what they are.
Right. I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, yeah, parsing words.
Yeah,
So legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comic's tight five survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
the comedian's culture point of view, definitely.
But
Yeah.
what about those shorts? You don't think they'll survive?
Well, yeah, well, there's shorts of his like low budget stand up. I mean, he's just now getting on like the big stage or whatever, but before he was just doing, I guess, stand ups at like, I don't know, local high school auditoriums or whatever. And so whoever was recording him, they would just take small, like,
Got
one-liners.
it.
But his name is
Would
Quinn Dale. That's his name.
okay. Okay. Check
He's
it.
like probably the best comic right out right now. Like, and he's only been out for like 3 or 4 years, maybe 4 or 5, maybe.
Well, I'm gonna check it out. So, Jay, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Facebook, Jacob Tchaikovsky, Scurry Uncut. Same thing on Instagram and the same as well on LinkedIn.
Very cool. Well, Jay, thank you for being my guest, and everyone, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
All right.